Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is our first TV analysis presented by Off-Dock TV. This is about analysis of the shipping world, the port operations, the entire logistics chains that encompasses shipping lines, movement of vessels to and from the port of Mombasa, operations at the port of Mombasa, and entire logistics chain that is characterized by the transport system, by the warehousing facilities, and by the cross-border movement of freight and services that compose the entire supply chain. This analysis will not only dwell on whatever happens at the port of Mombasa, but it gives an entire global view of how the port operates, the port of Mombasa. It also gives a picture of the kind of competition that exists in the shipping world, critically looking into the port of Dar es Salaam against competition with the port of Mombasa, looking at the port of Djibouti, and also looking at the corridors that serves the port. This includes the northern corridor that serves the port of Mombasa, the central corridor that serves the port of Dar es Salaam, and the southern corridor that supports the port of Durban. In this analysis, we'll come out critically and give a clear picture of why it's no longer attractive for the ports to get the most efficient services as indicated in most of their key performance indicators. What really counts most and foremost is the corridor that serves the port. Indeed, all the ports of the world are striving to have the best and the most efficient facilities, the most efficient performances. All the ports. Technology has taken center stage in achieving these kind of performance levels. But again, moving away from that, the most critical factor that will determine the attractiveness of any port in the world is the corridors that serves the port. The fluidity of those corridors, the non-tariff barriers that bog down the movement of freight from their sources and their destinations. And this is what we'll be discussing in detail during our analysis. During analysis also, we'll be looking critically into the internal performances of the port of Mombasa. This includes the trends, the ever-changing trends, the dynamics that are taking place at the port of Mombasa, and looking at the most recent government interventions. The government interventions at the port of Mombasa is bogging down the performance levels of the port of Mombasa. For instance, looking at the cash accounts, cash payment for all clients, apart from the ever existing over the years of ledger account holders. This will impact negatively on the efficiency of movements of the cargo from the moment it lands at the port of Mombasa up to the time it leaves the port. That means the dwell time of cargo in the port of Mombasa will be impacted negatively by some of these government decisions that are given to the port of Mombasa and affects its performances. And once the performance of the port of Mombasa goes down, definitely it will give a fair advantage to the port of Dar es Salaam against the port of Mombasa. Remember, the port of Dar es Salaam does not brag, does not just stamp the way the port of Mombasa does when it makes some few efficient moves. But look critically at what the port of Dar es Salaam is doing. Then you'll be convinced that they're making tremendous progress in improvement of their services and also improving of the corridor that serves the port. The government of Tanzania is giving a lot of support to the development and the growth of the central corridor, which also serves landlocked countries like Burundi, like Rwanda, and having access to these small landlocked countries, definitely they'll have access to most of the freight going to Uganda and the eastern DRC. That should be a wake-up call for the port of Mombasa, because indeed, port of Mombasa is the shortest distance, freight distance from Uganda to the port of Mombasa as compared to the port of Dar es Salaam. It is the shortest distance from the DRC Congo to Mombasa than it is to the port of Dar es Salaam. So it gives us the northern corridor the fair advantage of exploiting that opportunity to increase the freight to increase the freight volumes, and to market the port of Dar es Salaam as a port of choice for the landlocked countries, and to expand the movement of cargo within the region. While we are at the port of Mombasa, we also should look critically into the port of Lamu. Lamu provides the basis for part of the northern corridor, which is also called the Lapset corridor. The Lapset corridor serves the port of Lamu and also is envisaged that it will move across into south of Sudan, into Ethiopia, and also considering the fact that Ethiopia has very huge volumes of traffic passing through the port of Djibouti. And therefore, a fair competition between the port of Djibouti and Mombasa can only be realized when we efficiently operate the port of Lamu and capture all that cargo going to Ethiopia and the port of South Sudan. Well, so many people, so many critics would consider the port of Lamu as a white elephant. Indeed, I was also of the same opinion at the time the port was being commissioned by the heads of state of the respective countries way back in 2010. And I raised concern that if the port of Lamu is being developed for the purpose of giving service to Ethiopia, landlocked, because Ethiopia was technically at war with Eritrea, and South Sudan was also at war technically with northern Sudan, and then you develop the port of Lamu to provide efficient service and capture that traffic. What happens then? What happens? This is critical thinking. What happens when there is peace in Ethiopia and when is peace in South Sudan, like it is happening now? So with the advent of peace in both of these two countries, then they look viably at the most cost-effective movement of their cargo. Now Ethiopia is going to Djibouti, which is the shortest route, and South Sudan was also going to Port Sudan or Djibouti. Most of it is still retained at the port of Mombasa. But as we move forward, you realize that the real reason why the port of Lamu was developed to capture this freight for these landlocked countries, which were technically at war with each other, it does not really give us much success, as now things technically on the political front in the region has changed. But still, we can change the port of Lamu into a port of transshipment. By having very strategic location almost near the Horn of Africa, it can capture the movement of traffic moving from east to west, from the Far East, from China. China is the biggest exporter to port of Mombasa, and a lot of cargo is moving through vessels through the port of Mombasa. But indeed, even as they move to the port of Mombasa, these vessels mostly are transshipping from the port of Jebel Ali and the port of Salalah. Now, if the port of Lamu can be developed in such a way that if the shipping lanes find it very strategic located to capture the traffic coming from the East Asia countries, then it will be of most advantage to position the port of Lamu. But again, still, they'll have to deal with the competition from the port of Djibouti, which also captures the traffic that passes through the Red Sea into the Mediterranean region, and also the Indian East Coast that also is served by the port of Mombasa. Now, in our analysis, we should be able to link all the development of the ports that are competing in the port of Mombasa, the port of Lamu. We should also look at the trends, the dynamics of the trade routes and the movement of vessels, as shipping lines also change their way of doing business. Shipping lines are amalgamating, shipping lines are coming into partnership, shipping lines are coming together on a particular trade route so that they can get the benefits of economies of scale. And above all is to do what we call slot sharing on their vessels. But the Port of Mombasa introduced slot sharing, and I think they coined it the school bus arrangement. And this enabled the Port of Mombasa to manage the perpetual vessel congestions at the Port of Mombasa. Now, most shipping lines are sharing trade routes using the slot sharing arrangements with the shipping lines. And so, therefore, the role of the shipping lines in the movement of cargo within all the oceans of the world, all the trade routes, all the linkages, all the transshipment ports are determined by the shipping lanes. And this gives us the real reason why the Port of Mombasa must also remain focused on doing marketing with the shipping lanes to determine how much transshipment market the Port of Mombasa can take as compared to the Belali Salala and also the Port of Durban from the south and the Port of Djibouti from the north. And this requires a lot of aggressive marketing. The Port of Mombasa enjoys a lot of support from the regional countries which are landlocked, and this might soon change if the Port of Mombasa does not also transform, does not evolve also its performances as compared to the neighboring ports that are also competing with the Port of Mombasa. And in this analysis, it is very important for our members, our viewers, those who are listening to this should also make their comments, criticize where is necessary, because from those comments and critics, we'll be able to expound more on the performance of the Port of Mombasa. Logistics is the backbone of economic development of any country. And the cost of logistics eventually determines the cost of the final products on the shelf of the shops. And therefore, if the logistics and supply chain of any country is moribund, has got so many non-tariff barriers, then the cost at the shelf of all the products that are passing through the port of Mombasa will be determined, and the cost will be very, very high. So it's upon the government, it's upon the Ports Authority, it's upon the Ministry of Transport to come together and create a very conducive business environment for the Port of Mombasa and the Port of Lamu. Clear up the northern corridor. The non-tariff barriers must be addressed. These non-tariff barriers includes, for instance, roadblocks, police roadblocks, way bridges. All these are part of the non-tariff barriers that affects movement of cargo from the Port of Mombasa to their destinations across the borders into their transit countries. A lot of advocacy needs to be done for the purpose of the northern corridor. We do know that programs are in place by the Secretariat of the Northern Corridor to deal with the non-tariff barriers along the corridor, but apparently a long time has been taken before all these things can be addressed. Recently, the Minister for Transport for Kenya, during the presidential visit at the Port of Mombasa, decried the delays at the Busia-Malaba borders for cargo going to Uganda and the DRC and Burundi. But this requires government intervention, government policies that can support the corridor and also help improve on the services given by the Port of Mombasa. So in this analysis, we want our members to critically look at what we are presenting. Give us your own opinion. You can draw parallels with whatever you are talking about or whatever you are thinking, whatever your opinions are. But above all, subscribe onto this channel so that you can also be a member, join as membership of this channel. We'll be doing weekly analysis, which will cover every aspect, both in shipping, both in port operations, both in SGR train services, both in up to the landlord countries, the inland waterways transport system. We are going also to delve into the issues of warehousing, the road transport system, the air transport system, and the oil pipeline system, because all these are components of the logistics. And the cost per kilometer per ton of movement of this cargo will be determined the cost effectiveness of the logistics chain that serves the Port of Mombasa and becomes the backbone that determines how the economic and the high cost of living of the individual countries served by the port. Thank you very much. Subscribe. Click on the notice bell so that the next time we roll out a video like this, you should get notified on time, on real time. Also, give us a thumbs up for this, and then we should be able now to grow our membership so that we can now reach far and wide and get views of the people, how best the cost of freight, the cost of logistics as a chaplain can be reduced, the levels that make it very convenient for people to manage the purchasing power for the cost of the commodities that we get from the shelves. Thank you very much, and let's meet again in the next analysis. Thank you.